everyone, and welcome back to the Rabbi's Daughter podcast. I'm Shira Pfeffer, the daughter, clearly, and my father is here.
Hello, Shira. Welcome back.
Yeah, so we're here to discuss everything that's related to Charedi society, generational gap,
Israel,
etc. And today we're going to discuss the multicultural experience of growing up Charedi and Israeli. I think we share very different experiences in that. You didn't really grow up in the Charedi society. You grew up in England. I don't think it was...
Yeah, I wasn't very Charedi, let's say that. I wore a black hat. I was kind of black hatter.
In England, you wore a black hat?
I did. I mean,
but not like a white shirt.
When I was bar mitzvah, I had a blue hat.
You had a feather on it. It doesn't count.
That's right. It was a blue hat with a feather when I was bar mitzvah. And then over time, it gravitated to a black hat. I would sometimes wear it and sometimes not. It wasn't the center of my identity.
It wasn't really there. Like, I guess there were people that were more frum and less frum. But in your school, really
my school was a very mixed school. My shul was very mixed shul. I didn't grow up with any strong Haredi identity, black hat or otherwise. It wasn't really interesting.
Yeah. Well, and then you came here and you became kind of Haredi. I mean, it was like a journey. It wasn't a decision, but it happened. And also Israeli, because you came here. So my question is, when was the first time that you actually felt the tension between the two?
Yeah, so definitely not in England. England, there was no tension between wearing a black hat whenever I wanted and eating a Yom Ha'atzmaut breakfast, which we did in school. No one said, hey, you wear a black hat on Shabbos or something. How dare you eat a Yom Ha'atzmaut breakfast? That didn't exist at all. Maybe now in England things are a little bit different. But when I was growing up, there was none of that at all. Coming here, so I learned in yeshiva, and the yeshiva that I learned in was also something of a feeder, like a funnel, to become a deeper part of the kind of yeshivish or Haredi society here. I went from Beis Israel, yeshiva for many Americans, also some Brits there. From there I went to Meir. From Meir I got married to your mother. Baruch Hashem.
Yeah, I'm very happy about
Best
it.
decision ever, absolutely. But getting married to your mother brought me deeply into Haredi society, Israeli Haredi society. Mommy grew up here in Israel.
Yeah.
The family is Israeli.
But also before that, you were in yeshiva for
in Meir
5
yeshiva.
years.
Meir yeshiva can take you all kinds of directions.
Did you have an English-speaking Meir yeshiva?
Yeah, I was in like Chutznik, Anglo-oriented shir, Rabbi Charedi. At the time, there were very few Israelis in that shir. And my environment there was a very much English-speaking environment. So it could go a whole bunch of directions. But like I said, so I got married into an Israeli Haredi family. Not maybe classic, but pretty much.
Yeah, also know it's so Israeli, but...
Pretty much, meaning kids that grew up here. And we went to live in Ramot Aleph, like a super Haredi Israeli neighborhood.
Yeah.
And that was it. So then I really became a part of Hebrew-speaking Israeli society. That's where I lived. Those were my friends. That's where I learned in kollel. That was my shul. That was my kind of sociological belonging.
Yeah.
Here in Israel, my kollel was a standard Israeli Haredi kollel under Rabbi Weiss. So I became very much embedded within Israeli Haredi society. And the first time that I think I experienced the full tension with Israel, which again, I didn't think a lot in those years about being Israeli and the tension with being Haredi. I didn't think, the Chazon Ish says that Yom Ha'atzmaut should be a fast day, and what am I doing in Haredi society?
Yeah, you didn't think about the conflict. It wasn't...
No, it wasn't a thing. I was learning. I was growing in my Torah study. I was doing rabbinic stuff. I was writing a lot about halacha. I was teaching in yeshivas. I didn't experience that conflict very much, but the reason why I didn't experience it is because I was living a very sheltered kind of life, very isolated in my little Haredi bubble in Ramot Aleph. I didn't have a car. I rarely got out of the neighborhood.
Didn't have a phone. I mean...
I didn't have a smartphone at all at the beginning. Nothing.
Barely a computer.
I had a computer, but...
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I had a computer because I had to write stuff. But in any case, I just remember this very vividly, the first time that I really felt the tension was like a wake-up call was in Second Lebanon War. This is
What year is it?
2006.
I was barely here.
Right. And this is like 5 or 6 years after I was married. And I had a cousin, a second cousin, somebody from the Ben Yehuda family who was killed in the Second Lebanon War on the last day. The last day of the Second Lebanon War was a very tragic and terrible day with a lot of losses that really could have been prevented. It wasn't a day of war that we had to be fighting there. There wasn't much to be achieved. In any case, he was killed, and I went to the funeral, to the Levaya, and it was an army funeral, like with a full, power, with a full experience of an army funeral. And the commander spoke, and his girlfriend spoke, and everyone there was like, all these young Israelis, and just the power, the potency, the experience, the depth of it was like, what, like, whoa, something is going on here that I'm not a part of, that I'm not even aware of, that there's something here that I need to know deeper, and that my kind of sheltered life within the Haredi space doesn't allow me to, or doesn't enable the kind of awareness, knowledge, participation in what's going on over here. And that was like my first ever foray, if you want, first experience, I think, that like powerful experience. But later on, when the tension really got deep, was when I studied at Hebrew U, and then when I interned at the Supreme Court, and that was really the initiation of becoming kind of Israeli.
Did it give you? Was it a moral conflict? Because like a funeral is a bit like moral, that there's something that happens here that we're not part of, but in the Hebrew U and in the Supreme Court, it's just like the differences between the cultures, I guess.
Well, I'll tell you, I didn't feel at the time a moral conflict. It wasn't, I should be serving in the IDF. It wasn't like that.
It wasn't something they spoke about then?
Not at all. I didn't remember at all. Again, don't forget, I only made Aliyah in 2006, formally. I wasn't Israeli before.
But like in general, Charedim and Timnomim, Chilonim, they didn't speak about them. It wasn't an
there.
issue.
Don't forget, Chok Tal was at the time in full swing, meaning there was a law that allowed Charedim to leave yeshiva for a year and so on. I just wasn't involved. It wasn't part of my orbit. It wasn't part of my world. My world was Mei Yeshiva. When I learned in Meir, I didn't know the street names outside of Mei Yeshiva. That was my entire world, literally. And I was so immersed in this Torah world, also after marriage, that it just wasn't part of my orbit, not part of my conversation. It wasn't there. And even when I went to this funeral and I felt the force of it, it wasn't a force that made me ask questions. It was just something that stuck in my mind. There's something there. I became aware of the presence. When I was in Hebrew U, and even more when I interned at the court, then it became much more of an experience. I started to live in that world. I started to be a part of Israeli society. In the court, I was asked to be the chazan at Yom HaShoah, and then again, because I did a good job, so I was asked to come back and in Yom HaZikaron. That was my first ever Tekes Yom HaZikaron, my first ever Yom HaZikaron ceremony. I'm telling you, I felt, Shira, like a Baal Tshuva. Literally. I felt like, wow, it's a new world that I've become a part of. And I knew then, like, that's it. I'm a part of this world. I felt, okay, I'm part of my Haredi space. I know how to navigate it. I live there well. I now live in another world too. I live in the Israeli world also. It's now part of my life. It's part of my world. I kind of knew then, at those ceremonies and those experiences, that I'm going to have to live with that tension now. Yeah.
It's interesting about the funerals. I also feel they're very powerful. And in the beginning of the war, it was my first time. It was my first funeral ever. I've never been to funerals before. Yeah, like my grandparents, they're all young.
Right.
Now, still. And I remember the first funeral was started on was Shabbos. It was probably Monday, Tuesday, something like this. And I went.
What made you go?
I was on my way to Moshe and Acheri. They had it's my oldest brother. They had a Tali. She gave birth, and I was on my way to their house to give them something, and it was just on the way. The funeral was for some reason in Har Menchot. It wasn't in Har Herzl.
Oh.
I don't know why. It
So
was the soldier. It was called.
a military funeral.
It was supposed to be like he was a soldier.
Okay.
He was called Binyamin Lev.
Yeah, I remember.
He was in Netzach Yehuda.
Right. Could be the family didn't want a military funeral.
Could be, yeah. They're French, I think. I actually met his grandparents in the Tekes Yom HaZikaron of Netzach Yehuda. I sat next to them.
Okay.
So I didn't tell them my experience with this funeral, but it was funny. And it was the first time I actually felt, it wasn't the first time, but it was the most powerful time that I felt like a moral conflict. And it was super hard for me. It took me like a long time to get out of it. Not to solve it, but to just, move on with my life. It was very hard. Like, it was a point that things didn't go back to what they were before. Yeah.
Right. Even though, because of my own experiences or living in both worlds, I'm sure that became part of the home also on some level.
It was. Yeah, it's funny. Like we spoke about it before. I said I also have a first experience of this tension.
Tension, yeah.
The first one I remember, I was in 7th grade. I was 12. And my teacher, she was actually a good teacher. She spoke about Yom HaZikaron. They usually just avoid it. They just don't speak about it. But she did. And she said that it's such a shame that soldiers go to the army instead of going to yeshiva and learning Torah. It was like that was more or less what she said. She said a bunch of other things, but
meaning if they would go to yeshiva,
then we wouldn't need an army.
We wouldn't need an army. She
Yeah.
literally said that.
Yeah. And I got really upset.
I remember that one of the kids brought that home once. I didn't remember it was.
I mean, they all say that, so it wasn't.
No, it's
I
radical.
mean, yeah, it's radical.
I don't think they'll say that. That's radical.
Yeah. It's always an
It's
annoying
also
day in
nonsensical.
school, though.
It's crazy. Anyway, so you came home with that, and
No, so there in school, I remember it was the first time that I really felt I disagree with the teacher, and it was really hard for me because we didn't grow up like this in our house.
I hope not.
No, we didn't. Like it's not like we didn't do a ceremony on Yom HaZikaron or on Yom HaAtzmaut, but it was part of the house. And especially soldiers that were killed, it was like a thing that it matters. It means a lot. And it was hard for me, and I think it was the first time that I felt like the different ideologies really. Also between me and my friends. Like you said, we grew up in a very standard Israeli place. Like in my entire year, we were 140 girls. We were 3 English speakers in the entire year. Yeah, they were all Israeli. And
Israeli Charedi.
Yeah, obviously. And they really disagreed with me also. It's not like I could speak to them and tell them, oh, she said this and it's so annoying. Like, they didn't get it. It wasn't the language in their house. So there was this, like, difference. Suddenly I felt the gap.
But we had friends of yours often.
Yeah, they were good friends.
Visit.
No, they were really
and
nice.
And they came to our home sometimes.
Yeah.
Now, when your friends come to our home and we have, I don't know, more kind of a more Israeli experience in terms of the music, in terms of the culture.
First of all, it wasn't really there these years. Like back then, 10 years ago-ish, you couldn't feel the difference. I mean, we watched movies, but never when we had friends in the house. And we barely watched movies. It wasn't a thing.
No.
And when I was young.
No, I'm not talking about the movies. I'm just talking about the
Israeli,
Kind-
also Israeli music, we didn't have any. We heard Yeshiva Boys and Mordechai and David.
The kids, it took time.
It took time, but it was there. Like, there was a presence of, like, we're even just, the critical thinking. Like, we used to come back from school with things that our teacher said, and then you were like, well, I don't agree with this. And then it taught me to think about what they say. Like, the fact that they say it doesn't mean it's true. And it was different. Like, I always felt there was some difference between our family and the rest of my friends' families.
Right, which you could also say, well, it's because we're not standard Israeli. It's
yes,
because
that was
Daddy
easy. That was
is
easy
from
because
England,
that's what they all
and
said.
because we're English speakers.
Yeah, so
And so you're allowed to be different. You can
It's
get
true.
away with it.
it's funny. It's really true. It's still true. Like, people say that's fine. She's chutznikim. It's allowed. Like, they can do it.
Yeah, so I'll tell you, I have one out of a strong experience of being different because we're not Israeli. I'll tell you it. I was walking, also young Avreich, I was walking from Koilel in Ramat, and Ramat Mall wasn't built yet, but there was a hole in the ground.
Yeah.
Okay, it's going back a few years.
Yeah, I remember it.
You remember this?
I was
When they
like
started to
9.
build Ramat Mall.
Yeah.
Right. So there was a large hole in the ground, and I turned to my friend who I was walking next to. We were walking home together from the Koilel, and I told him, look, that's so nice. Like, we're going to have a mall. It's like, it's a good thing. And his response was, how can you even see anything good about this? It's Chilonim making money. Meaning it's secular. What
That's
I
not
see
true.
is secular
The
Jews
guy
making
that
money.
owns the Ramot Mall he's like a Haredi guy from Arnov.
He didn't care about that. He just said, what I see is secular people making money. That's what I see over here. So, obviously I got very defensive.
Yeah.
So I started saying, well, it's like, it's Yeshiva Eretz Yisrael. It's like there's a mitzvah going on here. Because according to several poskim, so even the economic growth or the economic development of Israel is Yeshiva Eretz Yisrael. And I told him, and you have investors who are Charedi and so on. He just looked at me like I'm from the moon. I just remember
not a
this
bad
so
thing.
vividly.
Like, so what if it's Chilonim that are making money?
Because from the Israeli Haredi perspective, you look at what's going on over here, it's often seen in terms of the conflict between the secular Israel or non-Haredi Israel and the Haredim. That's how they're looking at what's going on over here. And my perspective, even when I was deeply or exclusively in the Haredi space, I didn't have that perspective. It wasn't about the conflict. It's true, what I was doing was learning Torah and doing my halachic stuff. That's what I was doing. But I wasn't doing it in a conflictual way.
You didn't grow up like this.
No, I grew up in England, and therefore, when I experienced Israel, when it became a part of my life, it was also much more of a transition, a development, something that could happen naturally without this terrible conflict and having to make this decision. Am I going to be here or there? You know what? It's okay. I can be a part of my Haredi space and speak the language as a mother tongue and do what Haredim do. But I can also be a part of Israel in a deep sense and give thanks every day to Hashem that we're here with Jewish sovereignty and being able to develop a Jewish independence that we're a part of and to live in both of those worlds.
Yeah.
It wasn't the tension for me was never such a conflict. It was never something that I went to bed at night thinking, oh no, how am I going to resolve my Haredi identity and I just never had that. And I think it's something which, many chutznikim, people that come from England, America, again, at least my age, we'll speak about the generational gap. Maybe for younger people, it's different also in England and America. Things are polarizing there also.
In Israel, you have the tension like right here. You have, it's not just that you have the Charedim and the people that are not Charedim. It's also that you have the outcome of it. Especially in the army, the army issue. It's here, and it's a big issue, and it makes the conflict way bigger and way more muchashi.
Yeah, more tangible. But you know what? I tell me what you think about this. I think today's young Haredim are also much more Israeli.
True.
They also feel much more, and there's a difference because in America, young Americans don't feel Israeli.
Right.
Young American Haredim,
yeah.
they just feel yeshivish or Hasidish or whatever
Also
they are.
in Europe, I think.
They don't. So, that for me is fascinating because on the one hand, you're right. Over here, there's a greater conflict because there's an army issue and there's other issues, and still people see things through the lens of the conflict. But at the same time, people are just much more Israeli.
It's true. I think also the whole idea, the whole concept of Haredim is that they're different from everyone else, and that they're afraid of the influence of like the other side on them. So they're like keeping themselves in a bubble, and it's not so possible anymore. And today it's not like this, because also the whole idea of Charedim is like it's like a scale, and it starts here and it ends like
in Mea Shearim.
No, like half, yeah, in Mea Shearim, and the other side is like the Tilomi already, kind of, and then it goes there. It's like a whole scale. So they can be more part of the Israeli society without being so afraid. And also it's hard to fight with it because, you have internet. Everyone has internet. Not everyone, but most people have internet. And it's just hard to keep it, to maintain the differences. So
I'm saying, like, our home, okay? In our home, we have a lot of Israeli music, and we have, which came from the kids, didn't come from
it did.
I mean, I came a little bit from me.
Not Israeli
old
music,
stuff,
the old
Israeli music.
Right, yeah.
The Arik Einstein and stuff like that. That kind of came from me.
Right.
But then the new stuff came from the kids, obviously.
Yeah.
But also, we have a lot of connection to Israel, whether it's on Yom HaZikaron and Yom HaTzmaot, but also just generally speaking, okay, we're very connected. We're connected to the news cycle. We're connected because we believe in the Israel project, and we believe that we need to take responsibility for it. That's what we speak at home often, the whole time. For your friends, is that weird? Is that so, is that something which is off the chart? Or do you have like friends? It
depends which friends. Like elementary school friends, it's off the charts.
It would be.
It still is. And it's funny because back then they were really good friends of mine. We got along really well, but during the years now, it's hard to find a common ground. Like one-on-one, it's always easy. Like we have stuff to talk about. But like in a group, I'm like the different one. They're always asking me like, oh, it's so interesting. What are you doing now? And like, what are you thinking about? It's like a different world for them. Because they're like super mainstream. I mean, I guess you remember.
I do remember
some of them.
But it's interesting. This is something which is truer for our girls than our boys. No?
Maybe. I mean, I guess girls are more home, so we get the influence of the house more.
Right, and boys
and
more
also,
in yeshiva.
I also think, like today I think that girls they can be in both worlds easily. Like I don't know, it's hard to say if I'm Haredi or not. Like some people say I am, some people say I'm not. And I don't really care because it doesn't matter so much. But
right, you're not in yeshiva.
Yeah, for boys it matters because they have to decide which yeshiva to go to. And then to go to yeshiva Tesder or not to go. Like it's a thing and it matters. And you make a decision which makes the choice of are you part of the Haredi society or not. I don't have to make a choice like this. I mean, I can choose who to marry, but...
Right, it's more binary. For boys, it's more binary.
Yeah.
Because the institutional belonging is a sociological belonging, and that is going to be very impactful on what you do.
Yeah.
And that's changing also, though. Because you have the yeshivas in between, you have the new yeshiva tichoniyot, the Haredi spaces.
Yeah.
I mean, that's also changing. But I guess also in terms of friends, if you're in the boys' world, you can... just talk and learning or something,
Yeah.
It's a little bit
my
different.
good friends from high school and from Shiviti, like the Midrasha, they are very open-minded. Like I was always the most, you can say extreme, but I don't think it's extreme. I think it's like the opposite.
Moderate.
Yeah.
Well, you could
but I do teach them. Like they became more Zionist because of me. I'm very proud of it. It's true. Like I took them with me to this Tekes Yom HaZikaron once.
Which
It was
one?
before the
Metzger
war.
one?
No, it was before.
Oh.
We went together. I went with 2 friends. It was like, it's called Sharim Bakikar. It's near the area. It's beautiful. There are like hundreds of people all sitting down on the floor, and they have a stage, and like singers come and sing, Yom HaZikaron songs. So I go there every year. I mean, past few years. And I got there, I got a few friends to come with me. And since then, they go every year. And it wasn't a thing they would do if I wouldn't like take them with me. And some others, like I have a very good friend from high school. She's like from a super Haredi family. And in the war, she helped me with a few things, like when we did things for soldiers and for families. So she helped me out. And then she came up with like her own ideas. Her family didn't get what she was doing. I remember she went to this shiva of this girl that was killed in the Nova festival. And she said, like, will you come with me? And I was like, I don't know. It was a busy day. I didn't know if I could. She's like, I'm going anyway. And I was like, wow. She wouldn't say that a few years ago. And she went. And then I went with her. But yeah, it was surprising.
I think you're right when you said that it's become more of a spectrum. Meaning, the Haredi identity used to be an identity that would negate, it would exclude the broader kind of Jewish people / the broader Israeli, let's just call it, identity. If you're Haredi, then you're Vishnitz, you're Belz, you're Go, you're Litvish, whichever part you are, that's like your core identity, and it excludes the others. And I think today it's less like that. The identities are more compatible. We're going to have Leila Seder soon. I think this is a big part of Leila Seder. Meaning Leila Seder, that we say that our individual identity and our group, community identities, they're not our primary identities. I'm not first and foremost a Haredi guy. I'm first and foremost a part of the Jewish people. That's where we start. Like, that's Leila Seder.
Yeah.
We didn't come out of Mitzrayim as Haredim or something, or as anything else.
Not remotely.
We came, but you know what I mean, though. Not as any particular tribe or group or identity. We came out of Mitzrayim as a nation, and it's because we're a part of the nation that we're redeemed from Mitzrayim.
Yeah.
It's families that get together as families and say, we're a part of this nation. We raise our hands by bringing the Korban Pesach and say, we're a part of this.
Yeah, this comes first.
Yeah. And I think that today, that's kind of the trial that we're facing. To what degree are we a part of this?
I think in the beginning of the war, it was suddenly this wave of, we're part of this nation.
Right.
I mean, for us, it was always like this. I mean, in our family. But it was very strong. Also in the most Haredi people. But then...
what can we do?
Yeah.
What can we do?
Really
How can we
wanted
participate? Right.
But then, after a few, when things settled down a bit, well, kind of. So the conflict became even stronger because, now everyone wants the Haredi people to go to the army, and then they feel like they need to
be defensive.
Yeah, they're defensive, and it becomes way more significant, the gap.
Yeah, it became more conflictual, but I still think that things are shifting.
Yeah.
Yes, you've got this reaction. Okay, you've got this conflict. It's reactional, and it's also very emotive. It's namut v'lo nitgayes and all that. But I think deeper down, especially among the young, the guys that come to my programs, obviously that's not exactly a representative group, but still you see that people are being pushed to think. They're being pushed to think about their loyalties, about their identity, about their responsibilities. it's become much harder just to say, oh, this is not me, it's not what I do,
Yeah, people less think like this. Yeah, because also with my friends in high school, they weren't like this, even though, some of them were. But I wasn't weird. Like in the way we spoke in our house, it wasn't weird in high school. It was like a norm. Yeah. There were parts of like the ideologies that we have in the family that were different. Like there were many open-minded girls there. I had many friends that were super open-minded, but the values, in terms of values, Zionist values, that was still not something that you saw there. Not
Shira,
much.
If Haredim will be a part of Israel and take full responsibility, and like you said, there's a scale, there's a spectrum. So what makes a person Haredi?
I don't know.
It's a good question.
It is a good question because the whole concept of Charedim, like I said before, it's being
Separate, isolated,
separate from
being apart.
the rest of Israeli society, the rest of the world. I don't know. I guess you can find a way of them
or us.
Them or us. That's also a good question. I don't have an answer to that. Sometimes it's them. When I speak, it's usually them. But I guess you can say us. I don't know. Like I said, I'm a girl. I don't have to choose. I'm in between.
But you have to choose who to marry in the end.
I know. Yeah, but there are, like you said, there are people that are also.
You should know, I'm asked this question a lot, and I give it a lot of thought. What does it mean? Right? What's left from Charedi identity once you take full responsibility? You're a part of the institutions. You're a part of the army.
Like how do you say izun?
Yes,
a balance between being part of the community and not very exposed to other people, but also contributing to the country.
Yeah.
In different places. Like there are many ideas of how to do it.
Yeah, so I think that's the beginning of an approach. I don't think we have to do this on this particular episode to speak about that big question.
Yeah.
Well, it is a big question, but I think it's a big question, especially for the younger generation. The older generation, things were clearer. We're Haredi and we're not Israeli. We're Haredi and we're not, a part of Zionists or a part of what's going on in Israel or responsible for it. There was a much more clear delineation, a clear line that separates between what it means to be Haredi and your duties and responsibilities and what you do, and what it means to be when you're not. And I think that for the young people today, because they're so exposed, because there's such there's so many entry points. Think about people who work, friends of yours who are working at Google and Amdocs and Intel and Mobileye and Facebook and so on. They're there.
Yeah.
And they're so exposed to being Israeli in so many ways that you can try to say, oh no, we're here, but we're staying separate, but it's not so easy.
There's a big difference though between being Israeli, Israeli culture, Israeli music, speaking the Israeli language. There's a difference between that and like the values of being part of the Israeli. I guess it can come together, but I have friends that work with like in Tel Aviv, they're super secular, and it's like a first experience for them, and they do learn more about the Israeli language, the way they speak, the way they interact with people, like with boys. They never had anything to do with men before, and yet the values of the values that they have did not change. It stayed the same. We're different.
That's
there's them and there's us, and they can be their friends kind of, but the differences are very they don't find a common ground. They never said, oh, we're part of the same conflict. Like they don't say that.
Yeah, it's interesting. I would say it very much depends. Meaning, in the beginning, that could happen. That wouldn't be the case for someone serving in the army. I think if you serve in the IDF, then your values will, by definition, you're defending the country. You're a part of the army.
Yeah,
You'll be a
you're
patriot.
fighting with.
You'll be a part of Israel. There's no question that's going to change.
If you work in Apple, it's
Yeah, but I think also, it's just it's a generational shift. It's not something that's going to happen, in an instant. I would also say if you're working in Tel Aviv, the values there are not necessarily
very Zionist.
Yeah, not necessarily. They might be, but they're not necessarily the most patriotic values in the world.
Yeah.
I hope they are, but I don't know. But I think that it's a shift that takes time. But it's a shift that's also inevitable.
How can you make this shift, though, and still keep the Charedi society, okay?
Well, that was my question.
But I'm asking you now. No, you said, something like this.
No, so I agree with you that that's an excellent question, and there's no simple answer.
Where would you put the line?
So I don't know where to put the line, but I know there is a line. The fact that you don't know exactly where to put it doesn't mean there is no line. There is a line that says if my kids have smartphones, so you can say goodbye to Charedi society. You understand what I mean?
Yeah, but they do have.
If your kids have smartphones, then what makes you Charedi? You're just there.
It's like
you're
a line, you
exposed to the
think,
world.
smartphones?
No, but it's one example. It's one example, and there are many other examples. Of course, there has to be an educational shift. Once it's assumed that you're going to be a part of broader Israeli society, those are going to be your experiences. Those will be your interactions. You'll be there. Then you need a different kind of an educational upbringing in order to figure out how to maintain core values in that environment. The idea of being just totally separate.
But
we
if
don't
the
need to
core
talk
values
about it.
to be separate,
well, one of the
is it the core? Is it supposed to be a
no,
core
being
value?
separate is a strategy for maintaining your core
That's what
values.
makes Charedim.
Well, it's number one, yes.
Like Torah values also that the
it's
team
adopting.
have.
Well, okay, so you're getting into a deep conversation here, and being Charedi is a strategy of isolationism that maintains the core values.
Yeah.
But I think there's something deeper there also, because once you adopt that strategy, then that affects the way you understand those values also.
Yeah.
Meaning the same value, let's say, of Torah study, the same value of halachic observance, the same value of connection to Hashem, all of these values. So those values receive a certain color. They receive a certain interpretation because of the strategy of isolationism.
Yeah, you can see it very strongly in the value of Eretz Israel. The way Charedim look at it and the way the Team Leumim look at it, it's very different.
Right. I mean, that's a very extreme example.
Yeah, but you can
because
see
Eretz
the
Israel is
differences.
what this is all about.
It's the same mitzvah. They both have the same.
Right. So we both have a value of Eretz Israel, but of course it's interpreted differently, both because of and you could say it's because of the isolationist strategy,
it's also because
which relates to Zionism, of course, which relates to everything that's going on. But even in simpler things like how you study Torah. Is Torah study something which excludes everything else? It's a narrow Torah study where you don't want to bring other things in because that's outside of the base medrash. We keep it at distance. Or can you bring in some of those methodologies, some of those ideas, some of those greater bodies of wisdom and combine them with Torah study? It makes a difference. And the question is, if the isolationism is getting weaker, how will that also impact those core values? And there's, as you can imagine, a lot to unpack over here. It's
I also think it's like a journey, and things will resolve
themselves.
Not themselves, and also like you need people to actually do it.
Yeah,
it's not going to happen by itself. Yeah. But keeping the Charedi society Charedi, I'm not worried about it.
You think the Charedim will be okay?
Yeah.
I mean, the Charedi leadership is very worried about it. You should know. That this is exactly what they're worried about. The Charedi leadership understands that if Charedim are going to go to the army, things are not going to be the same.
Yeah, but there's
they're very afraid of that.
There's so many good people that they don't want. Like, you don't want to make Charedim not Charedi. That's not a... I had a conversation with a friend. He's secular. He doesn't know Charedim at all. And he's like... He told me, look, the Gius Charedim, like Charedim going to the army, it's like a big issue. We need to find a way of like making Charedim less Charedi. And I was like, no, that's not what you're supposed to do.
Right. It's not what you're supposed to be saying either. Meaning, if that's how you're approaching
Yeah.
it,
I mean, he
then-
didn't know much. It wasn't like
right,
on purpose.
he's not in charge of this.
But I don't think it's true. And I think that many people that are doing things in order to have Haredim more, let's say, Israeli, but not just Israeli, also responsible,
right.
to contribute to the country. They're not coming from an approach of let's erase the Haredi community. And I think that's what matters. The Haredi leadership, they're afraid of it. Like the only way they see is to keep the isolation like it was before. But that's not going to happen.
It's not happening anyway, and it's not because of me or because of anybody else.
Yeah, and then everyone
it's
is
changing by
freaking
force
out.
of nature. And then the question is, how do you now define...
But they don't try to find... I mean, this is what I feel. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but they're not trying to find a balance. They're just trying to keep things as they were before.
The Haredi leadership, I think that's how they see their role. They see their role as a role of preservation. But they know that things are changing from the field, and they provide that kind of resistance in the knowledge that things are going to change anyway. This is from a lot of conversations. Some will say I'm giving them too much credit, but I think there's something to that. Meaning they're a force of preservation, conservatism. There are forces of change that are anyway coming from the field, and the hope is that will create a healthy balance.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot to be said.
Do you think the balance needs the people that are trying to preserve?
Yeah, I think also
or it's better if they'll try to change things in a good way?
It's a good question. I think people ask me, does Israel need Haredim? And
yeah.
I think that's part of the answer to your question. Haredim in Israel are a force for conservatism, a force for keeping things as they were, as they quote-unquote used to be. When did they used to be? We'll leave that question aside. But Charedi and Israel are a force for that.
Even though proper conservatism is also about changing things,
Edmund Burke, okay.
Yeah.
Now, without that force of conservatism of the Haredim, I imagine Israel would look very different to how it looks today. Meaning, there's something healthy about having that force, and within Haredi society, you also have those forces, and I think there's something healthy about that. The trouble begins when those forces become too disconnected from the reality on the ground. And that can happen when Haredi society becomes disconnected from what's going on in Israel. And I think that's a problem now with the army issue and so on. It's not simple. And it can happen within Haredi society when the leadership is also not deeply connected enough to what's going on in the field, to what's going on with the youth, to what's happening in the workforce and so on.
It's like what happened in Europe before the Second World War. That the meaning of leaving the Haredi community and going to study in university meant like you're not religious.
Right.
You can't have them both.
Right.
And they didn't manage to preserve it. It wasn't, people just left.
Yeah.
They were all secular. Not all, but mostly.
Yeah.
And it's also because the Rabbanim, but I don't know who was in charge then. They didn't change the perspective or just the,
they weren't able to adopt, or they were not versatile.
Yeah.
But listen, don't forget, before World War II, before the Shoah, it was a crazy trauma. It was hard to expect anything. The traumas.
Yeah.
And the traumas of secularism.
Because it was a new thing.
Secularism was new, kind of, and it swept through all of these communities, and everyone left.
So they were defensive. They were like...
The only thing you could do was to build fences, erect walls, do something to preserve.
So they said, like, if you go there, you're never coming back.
Yeah, and it was such a trauma that it's difficult to put yourself into those shoes. It didn't help because it was too powerful.
Also, today it doesn't help so much. I guess it does in certain places.
Today Haredi society has been a tremendous success in Israel. You're saying today. Today, things are shifting. I know. That's the point.
Yeah.
That's the point. And
but I guess it shows that you do need to be able to change a bit in order for the community to survive.
You have to be attuned to reality and to be able to provide the kind of solutions that Haredim in the modern day need for this balance of, on the one hand, being a part of Israel, taking that responsibility, but on the other, preserving those core values and defining them. And in the past, there wasn't a need. You could just say, be like your parents, you know. Today, you just can't say that.
Also, the whole world was like this. Be like your parents. It was common.
Yeah.
But now it's not.
Yeah.
So, Abba, thank you so much. I think we're going to end here. We wanted to speak about the experience of being Israeli and Charedi, and we started there. And I think we spoke about it also.
We did. We
drifted to other directions also.
It's a big topic, and there's a lot more to say.
We'll get back to it. It's Pesach.
Yeah. I just want to note that you've got your Israeli map.
I know.
Yesterday
I was in this embassy, the American embassy program, and there are Arabs there, and they had this whole, I don't know, it was like a, how do you say tochnit?
Program.
Like a program, which they brought someone, and we all needed to like say what the future is going to look like, and I came late, so he gave me like a brief
summary.
Yeah, the instructions, and then he said, you just picture the future and write about it, but keep it in the area of your necklace. I was like, fine, I will. It was
nice.
funny.
Yeah, so you're wearing it proudly.
I am, especially there with like,
right, but you're embodying being Israeli and Charedi. Charedi and Israeli, whichever way you want to say it.
I am, yeah, proudly.
Do you have many friends with that necklace?
I do.
You do?
Not many.
Also Charedi friends?
They're not, Yeah,
there you go.
Not the very Charedi friends.
Okay.
But it's getting there.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you to our listeners for joining us.
Thank you for our listeners. And we'll be back.
We'll be back. Thank you, Shira.